What is the purpose of life, Naval? Everyone has to have their own answer to this question. So my answer is not necessarily correct. It's just valid for me. It's not valid for you. So what's interesting is more to explore the question than to try and come up with an answer to the question. Kapil Gupta and I've talked quite a bit about this, and the conclusion that I've sort of come to for myself is, I'm not answering your question directly, I'm answering a little indirectly, is when I try to think about what I want to do these days with my life, and I'll be the first to admit that I have a luxury that the rest of you don't, or many of you don't, which is I have money. So I have a lot more options open to me. But I like to think that I would have still thought this way even if I didn't have money, which is, when I think about what I should do with my life, I kind of realize that none of it is going to matter in the end. In fact, one good mental construct, if everyone could stop with the questions for a sec, one good mental construct is that I think that everything I do in my life is going to be a failure. Everything I do is going to be a failure. And I'm being deliberately provocative because I'm trying to catch your attention to deeply think about this. The reason everything I do is going to be a failure is, one is on the material level, on the physical level, I'm going to die. And when I die, I won't care. I've been under general anesthesia. There was life before. What was life like before I was born? I just didn't care. In those situations, you don't care. So when you die, you don't care about anything anymore. So in that sense, everything you've accomplished, you don't take anything with you. It's a failure. There's a second sense in which it's all guaranteed to fail, which is, even if you believe in ideas and memes and progeny and legacy, well, eventually the Earth will fade away. And after that, the solar system will fade away. And after that, the galaxy will fade away. And then the universe will end. So nothing is forever. Nothing is permanent. So everything goes to zero eventually. So there's that sense of failure. And there's a third way of realizing that everything you do is destined to fail, which is just look at your own experience. Every time you do anything and you succeed, you're really happy about it. And then a year later, you're back to where you started. Sometimes even a day later, but best case a year later, you're mentally back to where you started. The same way, if you fail to do something or something goes poorly for you, you're miserable and unhappy, but within a few months or a year, you're back to your previous state mentally. So even when you succeed, you bank that success right away and you essentially fail. So everything I do in my life is guaranteed to fail. So now what should I do with my life? And the answer is only what I really want to do for its own sake. And that's the definition of art. So whether it's business, whether it's exercise, whether it's romance, whether it's friendship, whatever you're doing, I think the meaning of life is to do it for its own sake. It's to just do it because you love living it. There is no meaning beyond that. And ironically, when you do things for their own sake, that's when you create your best work. That's when it's art. That's when it's, that's when you create that's when you're gonna do your finest work. And so even if you're trying to make money, you'll actually be the most successful. The year in which I sort of generated the most wealth for myself, even though it hasn't paid out yet, I can tell just in terms of I accomplished the most, I created the most value on an economic basis, was actually also the year in which I worked the least hard. But it was the year in which I cared the least about the future. It's where I was mostly just doing things for the sheer fun of it, where I was basically telling people I'm retired, I'm not working, and then I had the time to put into whatever was highest value in front of me, and by doing it for its own sake, I did it at its best. So I don't know if that answers your questions about meaning of life, but that is one way in which I think about it. There are other frames that I use. There's probably about 10 different frames that I'm using at all times to think about my life, but that is a recent and powerful one.